Hello, and welcome to Disneyland with Toddlers 101. This is your quick overview for taking a toddler to Disneyland in Anaheim, California. If you are a parent who has never taken your kids to Disneyland, if you are someone who has taken your kids to Walt Disney World but not gone to Disneyland in California yet, or if you're someone who has grown up going to Disneyland but has not taken their kids there yet and are wondering if Disneyland with toddlers is even doable or worth it, you're in the right place. You're going to leave this video having a quick high-level overview of Disneyland Resort, and then I'm going to point you to some of my other videos if you're interested in getting a deep dive in a certain topic. But first, welcome to Jetstream Adventures. I started this channel because my husband and I loved traveling when we were dating, but once we added kids into the mix, we realized that things got a lot more challenging. So this channel exists to help parents navigate those challenges and create core memories. This video is just one in an entire series about Disneyland Resort for toddlers, so make sure you hit subscribe and stick around. If you have any questions about Disneyland, leave a comment below. I'm happy to help. And while right now in this series I'm focusing on Disneyland, I am talking about all things Disney cruises and parks on Instagram and TikTok, so be sure to follow Jetstream Adventures there as well. So let's get into Disneyland. Disneyland Resort is located in Anaheim, California, which is just below Los Angeles, as opposed to Walt Disney World, which is located just outside of Orlando, Florida. Disneyland is the original park, and it is the only park that Walt Disney has actually stepped foot in. Walt unfortunately passed away before Walt Disney World opened. That's actually why Walt Disney World has the full title of Walt Disney World, because his brother Roy, who was the CEO of the company at the time, wanted to fully commemorate his brother in naming Walt Disney World. Fun little fact. So that really does bring an element of magic to the park that you won't find anywhere else in the world. As a toddler mom, something that I love about Disneyland Resort is how compact it is. Orange County was pretty much just farmland when Disneyland Resort was originally built in the 1950s, but the city of Anaheim has really built itself around it. So Disneyland Resort is pretty compact, as opposed to Walt Disney World, which is very wide and spread out. Where this comes in handy is that getting around is very simple. There are two parks, Disneyland Park and Disney California Adventure Park. And if you look on the map, you'll see that they're right across from each other. You can walk in and out between parks with such ease. It is so convenient. Just off to the side of the two parks is Downtown Disney, which is the shopping district of Disneyland Resort. And it also has a lot of restaurants, quick stops to eat. It's a very walkable setup, very stroller friendly, as opposed to Disney World, where if you want to go to a different park, you're probably not walking, probably taking a bus, monorail, Skyliner, private transportation. That's a big time waster. It's just so much easier getting around. For that reason alone, I have to say I've taken my kids to both, and I honestly prefer Disneyland a lot more than Disney World at this age, because it is just so much easier. There's just a lot less logistics to deal with. And speaking of logistics, if you are flying in, there are a couple different options. Your easiest is probably going to be LAX. It's about a little over an hour's drive away from Disneyland Resort, but it's probably easiest because it's most likely that you're going to get a direct flight. If you are lucky enough that you can score a direct flight from, say, like Long Beach Airport or Santa Ana Airport, it's awesome. But personally, I always go for the direct flight over having to have a layover. I know a lot of locals complain about flying through LAX, but I do have to say, as a tourist, I was very pleasantly surprised. It's very easy to get in and out of. I personally booked private transfers to get to and from Disneyland Resort and LAX, and that's very nice to have that taken care of. You probably will want to compare it, though, with renting a car, because private transfers for that length of a drive can get kind of pricey. What I also love about the location is that it is on the West Coast. So if you're coming from the West Coast, then you have no time change to deal with. But if you're coming from anywhere east of that in the contiguous United States, the time change works in your advantage. because you're going to want to be getting up early. And I'll talk more about that in a second. But that's another reason I love Disneyland in comparison to Disney World, because we are about equidistant from Disneyland and Disney World. But the time change is so much easier going to Disneyland than going to Disney World. Where should you stay with your toddlers in Disneyland? This is another pleasant surprise if you're used to Walt Disney World. Even hotels in Disneyland are very easily walkable. There are only 3 Disney brand hotels on the resort, which is a lot more simplified than Walt Disney World, but all of them are walkable to the parks. Some are easier than others. My personal pick for families with toddlers is the Grand Californian Hotel and Spa. You can't beat the location. It's the hotel that's nestled in closest. It actually has a direct entrance into Disney California Adventure Park. While the other 2 hotels, Disneyland Hotel and Pixar Place, are technically walkable, the walks from the Grand Californian are a lot shorter and a lot easier. There also are a lot of other non-Disney branded hotels that are technically walkable, although it's going to be a longer walk. So you'll want to think about how amenable your toddler is to riding in a long stroller ride to get into the park, and how much walking you want to do on top of the high amount of walking that you're already going to be doing in the parks. If you're interested in learning more about the Grand Californian or about other options for hotels, I did an entire video on our most recent stay at the Grand Californian, and I do also touch on other hotels in the area and compare and contrast what ticket to buy. When you go to purchase your tickets, you're going to see a couple of different options. It's going to ask you how many days you want your ticket for, and the more days at a time that you purchase, the cheaper it is per day. It's going to ask you if you want park hopper. Park hopper means that you're able to move freely between the 2 parks, Disneyland Park and Disney California Adventure Park, as opposed to a non-park hopper ticket, which is cheaper, but only allows you to stay in the 1 park that you scan into throughout the day. I personally always recommend getting park hopper because the parks are so easily walkable. It's nice to have that flexibility to go in and out of each park. And I think you will find that you'll use it a lot. I honestly never recommend getting park hopper for Walt Disney World, which is a lot harder to get around. I think it's a lot better use of your time to just take 1 park per day. But for Disneyland, because it is such a compact resort, it's so easily walkable, it does make sense to spend the extra money on the park hopper ticket. Another ticket feature that you'll get asked if you'll like to purchase is Lightning Lane. They have a Lightning Lane multi-pass, which you can purchase ahead of time. This allows you to skip the line at certain attractions in Disneyland Park and Disney California Adventure Park. If you're used to going to Walt Disney World, you'll find that the Lightning Lane multi-pass is a lot more limited than in Walt Disney World. And it's because, especially in Disneyland Park, some of these rides are still the original rides that were built in the 1960s, and the lines are so little that there just isn't room to physically build a Lightning Lane line. So at a glance, it may look a little disappointing to see what your Lightning Lanes are actually paying for. I will say though, I do still recommend getting the Lightning Lane multi-pass. I think any line that you can skip is a win when you have toddlers. Having those Lightning Lanes for certain rides allows you to kind of push those off and prioritize the rides that don't have Lightning Lane queues. But Lightning Lane multi-pass is just one type of skip the line package that you can purchase in advance. There's actually 4 different types of ways that you can skip the line. So I have a video that breaks down each of them and exactly how I would strategize Lightning Lanes, because there is a little bit of a strategy there. So I'll link that video so you can watch that. What to ride at Disneyland Resort. So there are 2 parks, but what can your child actually ride? I think if you've never been to Disneyland Resort, I think you'll be pretty pleasantly surprised at how much there is for your younger kids to actually ride. There are several rides in Disneyland Park and in Disney California Adventure Park that have no height requirement at all. You can literally take a baby on the ride because they're just gentle, easy rides. There are also playgrounds for your kids to get out of the stroller and burn off some energy. There are live shows for your kids to see, even during the day. You don't have to stay up late to watch a night show. There are shows during the day. I have a Disneyland Park guide that walks you around Disneyland Park land by land and tells you exactly what your toddler can ride land by land in Disneyland Park. So if you'd like more information on that, I'll link that video. And then I have a separate video that walks you specifically through Disney California Adventure Park, land by land, and tells you exactly what you can ride in each land, what the height requirements are, and if I think it's worth it or not for you to prioritize. You will want to do some planning ahead of time. You don't want to plan your vacation minute by minute, but you will want to have some idea of rides that you definitely want to ride, rides that you definitely want to skip, and a good idea of where you're going to want to eat. So I do recommend checking those videos out. Where to eat. If you've never been to Disneyland, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at how good the food is there. Expectations are probably set pretty low for theme park food, but Disney does such a good job of having a great variety. Disneyland is known for its snacks and its quick service options, which is great for families with toddlers. So again, that's why I think that Disneyland is just the superior experience for families with young kids. If you're used to going to Walt Disney World, you'll know that booking sit-down dining is a big deal. You have to do it 60 days out, and you have to really plan ahead and fight for those reservations. And while it does have the same rules for the sit-down options in Disneyland, there are a lot less sit-down options, and there are really only a select few restaurants that book up quickly. I did an entire dining guide for families with toddlers at Disneyland Resort, so I'll link that for you to watch if you're interested in learning more. And that is your quick overview to Disneyland Resort. If you have any questions about Disneyland, please leave a comment below. I do read all the comments and respond to them, and I would love to help. And while this may be the first video that you're watching from my channel, this actually wraps up our series on Disneyland for now. I just got off the boat of the Disney Treasure from Disney Cruise Line in Port Canaveral off of a 7-day sailing, so I will be sharing all about that next on YouTube and on your favorite podcast player. So be sure to hit subscribe, give this video a like, and stick around. And if you're not already, make sure you're following Jetstream Adventures on Instagram and TikTok, where I talk all things Disney cruises and Disney parks throughout the week. In this next screen, I'm going to link my most recent video. That is what I wish I knew before going to Disneyland Resort, and also a Q&A answering some questions that I've gotten over the series. And if you haven't watched any other Disneyland videos that I've done yet, I'm also going to link the whole playlist so you can binge everything. With this video, the series is completely done, so you can watch the whole thing. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. So I'll link that video up here. Yeah, it's up here. I feel like I always point up here, but I feel like it's actually up here. I don't know. Anyways.